Marion. I like your comment. It's been raining pretty hard, hasn't it? It's like, oh man, this is what I was thinking about, how for sure right now is the time where having indoor workouts is really nice. There goes my phone. Whew. All right, let's get started. Everything's falling on my head. Start. Okay, let's start. All right, nice, easy warm up. If you've already gotten a little bit of cycling in, you can be in a little bit harder gear. Otherwise, pick a nice easy gear. Just every minute or so, switch to a harder gear. So today's workout is primarily aerobic. There's going to be some opportunities for you to choose some different intensities. So 10-minute warm up as usual, and then we're going to do 3 sets, a minute high cadence and a minute recovery, and then we're going to get into the main set. And the main set is essentially a 24-minute block broken up to 3 8-minute blocks. And I've written the workout so that the recoveries are low-end aerobic, so 65%. There's 2 different times when we do recovery in the 8-minute block. And if you need more recovery, you can drop it below the aerobic floor. You can go to more traditional recovery if you need it, okay? And then there's a minute towards the end where we're going to go up to the upper aerobic ceiling, which is 75% of functional threshold power. It's right when that breathing becomes labored. But I wrote that minute so to go into tempo, so to go into 80%. So I got to calibrate my trainer. 1 second. Nailed it. All right, I'm back. So I wrote that minute to just push us up into tempo to make the workout a little bit harder. So that's definitely a place where if you want a little bit harder workout, you can go with me and go up into tempo for 1 minute. If you don't want to, maybe you're coming off a tough weekend, tired, you have a big workout tomorrow, you can keep that minute at 75% and keep yourself from going as high as intensity. And then after that, we're doing a minute and 30, 65%, which is low end aerobic, that's recovery. But if you go up to that 80, that's definitely a place where you might find that you need to drop below 65% to get more recovery before we start block 2, okay? So the 8-minute blocks look like this. 3 minutes at that mid aerobic, where I like to call the gear of choice. A minute 30, a little bit harder, so you can either switch one gear harder or you can pick up your cadence and bring your intensity up right at that aerobic ceiling. And then 1 minute recovery, low aerobic, and 1 minute into tempo or upper aerobic, your choice, and then a minute 30 at the low end aerobic, 65%. Okay, so I think that's an 8-minute block. That's an 8-minute block. If you haven't already, go ahead and switch to a harder gear, start pedaling a little faster. It's getting cold up here in the 2nd story, so the heater is on now. I just turned it off because I don't want to sweat too much. There it goes. I remember a few days I had it on and had the AC on. in the summer. Like all upstairs in old houses, it's either really hot or really cold, typically. So let's go one gear harder again. Let's see. When we do the 3 sets of 1 minute cadence work, we'll increase the intensity each minute. So kind of more moderate, a little bit harder, a little bit harder on the consecutive times through. I was excited for today because after last Thursday, when I really didn't want to ride, and then we rode, and then it's always great when the ride's over, right? So you feel like you got something done for, in our case, 7:30, and then I got to go to work, did a rowing machine workout at lunchtime, but I just remember waking up Thursday morning and being, oh man, I really don't want to get on the bike. And then being so happy when it was done. So last night before I went to bed, I was actually excited because I knew that coming to the workout, getting it out of the way, I would feel better. So I thought that was cool that I was looking forward to it. I think it was all because of Thursday when I woke up and just, wanted to hit the snooze button, keep sleeping. It's so dark now in the morning. So this is a workout where it definitely, if you haven't already figured out what your gear of choice is, and remember your gear of choice can change over time. If you're coming from off a break, then your gear of choice might be a little bit easier than it was. If your fitness is really improving, your gear of choice might become a little bit harder than it was. If you're highly fatigued, your gear of choice may be 1 or 2 gears easier than normal. But essentially, you're in your gear of choice when you can spin at 90 pretty easily and the breathing rate doesn't rise to being past that comfortable zone. And a good way to check it is if you think you're in your gear of choice and you drop to an easier gear, your cadence should pretty much pop right up to like 95. And then if you're in your gear of choice and go 1 gear harder, your cadence should probably drop down to 86, 88. And then you start to notice in 1 gear harder that you really have to concentrate to bring your cadence back up to 90. So those are a few cues for figuring out gear of choice. So when we start our 1 minutes of high cadence here, let's start in 2 gears easier than your gear of choice. Now, for me, my gear of choice is my big chainring because I have 11 gears in the back. So for me to go 2 gears easier, it's going to be somewhere in the small chainring. So let's spend a little time right now over the next minute. Just play around with some gears. So choose a gear, maybe just see how easy or hard it is to get your cadence above 90. Just go for like 10 seconds. Check the effort level, see where your breathing rises to. Maybe, because remember, we want each one to get a little bit harder, so we don't want this first one to be too terribly hard. So pick something on the easier side. typically when we do high cadence, we'll even go with like this first kind of gear because we're trying to get up into the hundreds. So keep that in mind. On this first one, let's try to get up in the hundreds on our cadence. And so the gear you choose is going to affect that. All right, we're going in 20 seconds. Yes, 20 minutes. No. We're going to go in 10 seconds, so we're going to go for a minute, high cadence. And because we're in an easy gear, you should probably start bouncing around on the bike pretty quickly. So good opportunity to practice your form. Ready? Here we go. So bring that cadence up. Let's see if we can get to or above 100. So if you don't have cadence and you're matching my knees, I'm at 101. Now, really pay attention to your form. If you start to bounce around, kind of make your spine a little bit tighter, without being too stiff. A little flex in the elbows. You can pull your neck, elongate through your neck. You should really feel your butt in your seat. That'll help you stay stable. You can see there's a little bit of rock, but I've been at 100 the whole time mostly. All right, we can stay right here in the same gear, just slow down. So nice and easy recovery, 1 minute. So just let your legs slow down. But you can stay in that same gear. Hopefully that's easy enough gear. If you need to go one gear easier, you can. So take a peek at your gearing. Can you go one gear harder next time? If you were up at 100, let's say on this one, next gear harder, why don't we shoot for like 97, 98? Maybe we only hit 95. See how hard it gets. Okay. Grab some water if you want some. All right, ready? Here we go. Number 2. So one gear harder. Bring our cadence up. $97, $98. So I can see getting to 100 is possible. It takes a little more effort. 98. So instead of sitting right at 100, I got to work a little harder. I'm also noticing that I need to pull a little bit more to the bottom of my pedal stroke. Okay, we're going to go easy here in 2 seconds. Okay, go easy. Try going easy in the same gear. Maybe you need to switch one gear easier, and that's okay too. Take a peek at your gearing. Can you go one gear harder? Maybe if you do, you end up in the big chainring. And that's okay. Remember, we're not going to use in the small chainring, we're not going to use our last 2 outside gears. So if you're in like number 3 right now, you're going to have to go up. You can even just take a peek. And remember that last gear that you use on the small chainring is the equivalent of a gear used on the big chainring. All right, 20 seconds to figure out which gear you're going to use. So let's see if we can go one gear harder and see if we can get back towards 100 cadence. I'm still like probably 2 gears easier than my gear of choice. If I was gear of choice, it'd be like 93 that I'd be reaching. Ready? Here we go. So bring the cadence up, one gear harder. All right. Now I'm working a little bit. 93, 94, 96, 97, 98, 100. You definitely feel the intensity raise. Breathing starts to get a little bit deeper. 96, 100. Ten more seconds. All right, go ahead and relax. 1 minute. So, like for me, that would be a pretty good gear to do some, try to spin at 100 in, because it was challenging. And then by doing that, by getting more comfortable at 100, it makes 90 feel pretty easy. Okay, 40 seconds to start the main set. So we're gonna start off 3 minutes with your gear choice. 70% should be mid aerobic, should be moderate in effort. So for me, it's big chain ring. So I'm gonna start working my way there now. And remember, how you're feeling energetically can affect that gear of choice. All right, going 2, 1, here we go, 3 minutes. This can also be a place that you toggle gears. So if you notice your intensity starts to rise too much, just go one gear easier. If you notice that the intensity isn't enough, go one gear harder. Maybe you're doing that every 15 seconds. After this, we're going to go 1:30, where we raise the intensity just a little bit to the upper aerobic ceiling. Now, when we do go up, that's going to be a good opportunity to really work on keeping your cadence around 90. But it might drop to 88. Okay, 2 minutes down. Where we're gonna feel the work is when we start in the second block. So again, this is more of an aerobic workout, but we're fluctuating between the upper and the lower and the middle zone of aerobic, just so it's not so boring. It's also a good opportunity for us to kind of fine tune how those different microzones feel. All right, here we go, 1:30. So bring up your cadence if you're not there. And then try 1 gear harder. Notice your cadence will drop. So see if you can get it back to what it was. Mine dropped all the way to 82. And then if it starts to become too labored in your breathing, either adjust your cadence or go back to 1 gear easier. And like I said before, this is definitely a place where it should take some concentration to get to 90 cadence. We're here for a total of 1:30. So we're halfway through. And then we're going to do 1 minute low aerobic. And again, if you need more recovery, you can go ease in low aerobic. So to start with, let's think about that low aerobic being 1 gear easier than a gear of choice. So for some of you, it means switching from big chain ring to small chain ring. I can feel myself working, but I'm not out of breath, so that's good. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Okay, ready? 1 minute. Try 2 gears easier. Yeah, right away, hopefully you're feeling that relief. So because we're not getting our intensity of the work period too high, we can keep the recovery period also a little bit higher into the aerobic zone because we're kind of more steady versus up and down and up and down. Okay, 20 more seconds, and then we're going to go either into tempo or back to upper aerobic. So to go to tempo, you could be in the same gear and really work on your cadence, or you can go 1 gear harder. I'm just going to go back to where I was and try to bring my cadence up, because that was about 86. Okay, ready? Here we go. So bring my cadence up, shift 1 gear harder, bring my cadence up, shift 1 gear harder. This is where I was. So I'm going to just try super hard to keep my cadence at 90 instead of 86. And see if I start to get to that place where I cross that aerobic threshold, the breathing becomes deeper, requires more concentration. Okay, I'm at 90 now. Definitely harder. Nice. Okay, after this, we're going to go 1:30 back to low aerobic. Again, if you need more recovery, you can go easier. And just do that by choosing, 3 or 4 gears easier than where you're at now. All right, ready? Here we go. 1:30 recovery. You probably feel that like I just did. Switch gears, it's like waiting to exhale. I'm starting to sweat. There's a spot right here where I get the most fan coverage. Might have to start really paying attention to how I place my fan. All right, nice job. So that was 1 block. So you've been through it once before, so you know it's not too hard. So now you can think about that, whether you go 70 or 80%. Okay, we're going to go 3 minutes mid aerobic. for me, it's going to be switching back one gear harder. Okay, ready? Here we go. Bring my cadence up, switch gears, and then work on keeping my cadence at 90. You can stand up too every once in a while, just to, mix up the muscle groups. But also when you sit down, you tend to have a lot more power. So I'm looking at cadence, and it's 89, 91, without requiring too much concentration. So that's good. My breathing is also under control. I'm right where I want to be. So we got 2 more minutes here, and then we go 1.5 minutes at the upper aerobic. So this ride, I think, is more indicative of an outside ride, in that you want to work in that aerobic zone, and you don't want to go up to what we're doing that towards the end of this block where we get up into that tempo. So you do tempo work if you're consciously trying to do tempo work. If you're just out for an aerobic ride, you want to make sure you stay below that tempo work. That's where you really start to benefit your aerobic system, the ability to go long, for long periods of time, comfortably. You really want to develop that plumbing, if you will. And most of the time, people tend to ride or run a little bit harder than that because it feels like you're working out. So that's part of the reason why I like to really help you define, what's 75%, what's 80% of FTP. You could also correlate that a bit to your heart rate. One nice thing when you're riding aerobically outdoors is you're forced to shift gears because of the change in the road. So it's one thing that's hard on the trainer is if you're riding aerobically and you're just in one gear. Okay, here we go. Minute 30, 75%. So I'm going to stay in the same gear for a little bit. I'm just going to really work on spinning at a higher cadence. And I want to see what happens to my intensity, my heart rate. And then I'm going to go to a harder gear. So we're here for another minute. We have a minute low aerobic recovery. I'm always kind of amazed that total workout time is 28 minutes. And it's like when you do a workout like this, you get to the 30-minute mark pretty quick. Ten more seconds, and then we do a minute of gear easier than gear choice. Start to feel a little fatigue in my legs. Okay, ready? Here we go. 1 minute recovery. Oh yeah. Right away, relief. Again, if you need to go more recovery, drop to an easier gear. Make sure you're hydrating. I'm like a third through. All right, 20 seconds. We're gonna go into tempo or upper aerobic. So think about how that last one felt. If you're going tempo, you want it to be a little bit harder. Sometimes when you get in those bigger gears, standing up in the beginning is good. Okay, ready? There we go. I'm bringing my cadence up. Switching to a harder gear. Bringing my cadence up again. Switching to a harder gear. I'm now one gear harder than gear of choice. I might go one gear harder, and I'll stand up. Sit down. Okay, now think about this as I'm kind of racing. You know, I'm really pushing it. Maybe this is like I'm doing Olympic distance triathlon. Coming out of the swim. Want to ride fast today. This kind of feeling. Maybe I'm toggling gears. My power is a lot higher, my heart rate's higher. My cadence is lower. All right, and just like that, let's go back to a minute 30 recovery. So I went right there. I'm one gear easier in my recovery than I was last time. I just felt like I needed it. Maybe now it's 15 seconds. So now I'm gonna go one gear harder. Still easier than gear of choice. But I felt like I needed a little bit more recovery. And in this minute 30, maybe I feel like I need a little more recovery in the last 30 seconds, so I might go one gear easier. All right, 2 blocks down. One more block at 8. And then boom. 5-minute cool down. Get in like a 46-minute ride. Good amount of sweat. All right. Ten more seconds, and we go into block number 3, starting 3 minutes mid aerobic. Guys ready? Here we go. Bring that cadence up. Boom. All right, if you have cadence, really want you to focus on cadence right now. Get that cadence to 90. So a lot of times I use that little standing move to bring my cadence up. It doesn't go up when I stand, but when I sit down, I notice it comes up. Basically, I'm telling my legs to deliver more power, and then when I sit down, I have the higher cadence. You can also switch to the easier gear and toggle those gears. Got another minute here, and then we have 2 work periods. One is a minute 30 upper aerobic, one is a minute tempo. I say that just to let you know we're almost done. So, sort of the icing on the cake, what kind of workout do you want to get? Maybe you don't want to go that hard. That's okay too. Maybe you want to go a little harder, and that's okay too. Maybe you thought you weren't fatigued, and now you're finding out that you're more fatigued from something you did on the weekend. Maybe you're more recovered. Okay, here we go. Ready? Minute 30, a little bit harder. So you can stay in the same gear, bring up your cadence, and go to a harder gear. So maybe you have speed on your bike, the speed sensor on the back wheel. And in addition to effort, maybe you're looking at your speed and seeing that your speed is higher, which would be, since everything else is consistent, a metric of validation to let you know that you are working harder in addition to your effort. So oftentimes the more cues you can string together, cadence, speed, heart rate, power, perceived exertion, really helps you dial it in. So just briefly, I felt like I crossed over into tempo, so I brought it back by switching one gear easier. All right, got a minute low aerobic coming up, some micro recovery. All right, here we go. So a couple gears easier. Yeah, I want to feel that nice exhale. Ooh, I'm sweating now. You also want to hopefully start to get to where you can recover low aerobic without dropping out of it. Again, we must remember that we don't need to go as deep in the recovery because we didn't go as high in the intensity. All right, we got a minute coming up. Last minute of work. You can even take this to 85%, so you can go a little bit harder because that tempo zone is like 76 to 85% FTP. Okay, here we go. Ready? So you can get to a place right above tempo is what I call threshold. And that would be like, say, threshold would be your 10K running effort. It would be your FTP test effort. So you can think about trying to bring it up there and then backing off. It's a little harder to distinguish when you crossing over between tempo and threshold. All right, low aerobic, minute 30. Yeah. You probably can't see it, but I have sweat dripping off my nose. Nice. Woo. Okay, minute 30. Staying up in this low aerobic zone. before we drop out of it to recover. You can toggle gears here. I just went one gear harder because I just want to finish this off, staying in aerobic. Man, nice job. How about quick? For me, anyway. Whew. Sweaty, sweaty. Okay. Starting our recovery. Let's drop into a small chain ring if you're not there. And let's work our way down to third gear from the outside. So shift that way. Don't worry about the cadence. Probably going to be pretty low. I'm like 72, 73. Definitely don't want the breathing to be hard. Don't want the fatigue in the legs to be noticeable. It'll become more noticeable if we brought our cadence up. All right, let's go one gear easier. You might notice right away that your leg speed picks up a bit, your cadence picks up. So each time we switch gears here, I just want you to notice how without any effort, your cadence changes. It just naturally, like it's boom, it's an easier gear change, and the legs will start spinning faster. Without like intentionally trying to do it. In fact, if anything, you almost have to intentionally slow your legs down. All right, here we go. One gear easier. Notice that change in your legs. All of a sudden, you're probably above 90, at 90, without much effort. Think about your positioning. If you have a lot of tension here, go ahead and bring your neck out of your shoulders and drop your shoulders a little bit. This is the position we tend to ride in on the road a lot, just from the tension of maybe being worried about traffic. So even when you're out on the road, try to notice your shoulders and pull them down, pull your neck up, kind of relax. Grab some hydration if you need some. All right, you guys ready for one more easy gear change? Here we go. Woo. Now you're probably at a place where your cadence is above 90. And if anything, you have to work on your form to keep yourself from bouncing. And if you consciously choose, you could let your legs slow down a little bit. Hopefully you're noticing by moving through this progression that your heart rate is coming down, your intensity is coming down, the breathing's coming down. So we're just taking you through a nice systematic, easy cool down just by using gears. All right, we got a little more than a minute. Let's do one more gear change, easy. So you might be in that gear where the legs start spinning almost too quickly with hardly any effort at all. All right, let's consciously let our legs go slower, force them to go slower. Let's see where I'm at cadence-wise. See if we get in below 80, 78, 81. All right, now we're gonna go one gear easier. And this should just feel painfully easy. Let your legs be slow here, like below 90. I'm at 76 right now. So I basically have to sort of mentally choose to keep my legs from spinning out of control. All right, go ahead and let your legs just slowly start to come to a stop. Remember, we don't want to use our brakes when we're on the trainer. All right, good job. Whew, Thursday will be tougher, so bring your sweat towel. See you guys on Thursday. Thanks. Thanks, Marianne. See ya.